Mr. Dreams.
Hi, ma'am.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am Relina.
Good evening po.
Hi. Nag-hello na ako dun sa ano mo sa request mo. Wala ka namang sinabi.
Apo. Musta po?
Nakita mo? Ay, hindi ko alam eh.
Yes po, nakita ko po.
Hindi kasi ako masyadong marunong sa ano eh. Sensya na.
It's okay, ma'am. No problem.
Hindi ako masyadong marunong mag-social media, ano.
Okay lang po. Wala po problema.
Wala nga akong ano eh. Wala nga akong kwentang friend sa Facebook. Wala akong kwentang friend sa Facebook. Paminsan-minsan ko lang siya nadadalaw. Na 7:36 na. Nandiyan na ba lahat? 9 pa lang. Rowell. Ang galing yung Rowell mo, Mr. Bean.
Sa mama ko po.
Ano ibig sabihin ng R-O? Rowell?
Rowelda kasi yung pangalan ng mama ko. Kinuha lang yung A.
Ano na? Rowena?
Rowelda.
Rowelda. Okay. Tinanggalan mo lang
Tsaka
ng
yung
A.
Vince po. Oo po. Tinanggalan lang po ng
Father
A.
mo.
Tapos yung Vince po. Vicente to Vince. From Vicente po to Vince. Mahina yung signal ko po. Sorry.
Vicente to Greece.
Okay.
Okay.
Opo.
Ako naman,
Millennial.
Rosalina.
Millennial.
Kaya ako Relina. Meron na nga gumaya ng pangalan ko. Ba yan? Dati ako lang may pangalan yan. May gaya-gaya ng pangalan. Ako Ate Sylvia, nagpalit ako ng battery ng keyboard kasi nagkakamali yung keyboard. Ayaw gumana kanina.
Ako ate, marami akong clerical errors. Kasi nga po, magaling ako mag-type po. Tapos yun, kala ko, feeling mabilis bitaw. Alam mo yung ganun? Ay, gupo.
Bakit wala pang nag-i-start? Mahaba yung lecture natin
Mahaba ba, ate?
Mahaba
Yan na,
siya.
negative na naman siya, te. Good evening po sa lahat. Good evening po to our to UPTA lecturers, to our parang konti pa lang yata sila. Good evening po, Ate Relina, Ate Sylvia, and Monina.
Good evening.
Can you hear me po?
Yes.
Clear. Very clear. Very clear.
Oh, medyo mahaba yung section 1 and 2.
Baka mali yung tinignan ko.
Uy, kayo ngayon Ate Sylvia.
Baka mali yung tinignan ko. Di ba ate, ano to? Section 2 and 3 ng, ano ba to? Pagkitingin mga muna.
Section 1 and Chapter 3, Section 1 and 2.
The periods of the provincial history and the determination of their lengths. Okay.
Kayo ni Miss ni Miss Jinky. Diba Miss Jinky? Tama ako?
Ano pala ako. Yes po, good evening po sa lahat. And are we good na po ba?
Kasi mabitin tayo ng mabitin tayo ng naririnig ka dad. Para siyang lolo.
Hi Althea, kita ko siyang maganda dyan
Alright, before we officially begin VP series for tonight, may I request everyone, of course, to let's sing together the Trinidad Group anthem. But before that, may I share my screen lang po. Pwede
Muted ka ate, hindi ka naririnig.
사랑의 장미 비만의 새 소식이 만발하도다. 고대양 육대주와 천주까지도 억만세태 평성대 길이 빛내세 자유천이고 숭고한 하늘빛깔 순결의 백합 상하고 빛난 정신 이어가도다. 고대양 육대주와 천주까지도 억만세태 평성대 길이 빛내세 평화천이고 순정의 기쁨이 떠 천년한 날에 영생의 이상향을 나타내도다. 고대양 육대주와 천주까지도 억만세태 평성대 길이 빛내세 통일천이고 사계절 휘날리는 천일국 깃발 천진 참부모님 소망하도다. 고대양 육대주와 천주까지도 억만세태 평성대 길이 빛내세 행복천이고.
May I request Ate Monina to do the opening prayer?
Hindi naririnig. Miss Manila.
Naririnig na po ba ako?
Tapos na. Walang audio.
Yeah, medyo may technical problem po, but may I request Ate Relina to do that?
Please join me in prayer. Good evening, our most loving Heavenly Father, true parents of heaven, earth, and night. Other today we will be again starting our session or meeting uh, in the 21 day Divine Lecture series, and that for the fifth batch for the fifth batch participants. And we thank you, Heavenly Father, for this day, for this opportunity that we will be learning again your words, Heavenly Father, especially the program topics for today, which is the parallel periods and the determination of providential numbers. Father, uh, please open our hearts as we learn from each other, from the lecturers, and also as we learn also from as the lecturers learn from also from the reflections of the participants. Father, we pray that you will always be with us and that you will always be guiding us, and the gradings and report is through all the 25th batch of the fifth batch of this 21 day lecture series, and also together with the UPTA lecturers and in the names of Ryan, Revina Delongo, Central Western Arch.
You. Thank you so much, Atrina, for that. Yes, good evening, my dear brothers and sisters. So now we are in the day of 14 for the 21 divine principle series. Yes, we are in the almost in half, more than any half, yeah, of the day. And yes, as of before we start our topic for tonight, yeah, and let us do the recap. Of course, yeah, the recap that we learned in the past last week. Yeah, there anyone wanted to do the recap, of course. And also may I remind our brothers and sisters, if your camera is, especially to our participant, if your camera is okay, then yeah, it's better put to open the camera so that we could see this and we could see your beautiful faces. Yes, as may I call, yeah, Kuya Patrick, recap that this the thing that we learned in the past last week. Let us welcome.
Good, good evening po, elders, brothers, and sisters. So, as a recap for the last meeting that we had, we tackled about the providence of restoration centering on Moses and Jesus. So, what we learned is that the providence of restoration centering on those central figures was prolonged mainly because the central people, during that time failed to unite with their central figure who stands in the evil position. So the the people involved there failed to really have this the uh, unity of the Abel and the Cain. Uh, so that is why um, even though kanang those central figures uh, did so many indemnities in the end, if the central people fail to unite with them, so the providence of restoration will be prolonged. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuya Patrick. Wala si Jinky. So, let's begin with the lecture. Mm, So, to formally begin the lecture, let us welcome. We are now in the chapter 3, okay, of Part and Divine Principle. So, we'll be talking about the parallelism and the numbers and generations um, behind the providence of restoration. Okay, so I would like to let us all welcome our blessed family with the wonderful children. Now, they're going to share with us about this topic. So I would like to welcome Ate Sylvia, Mario Liapera.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kuya Herwin, for that very kind introduction. And good evening, everyone. Good evening to our Kuya Randy and Ate Relina. Yeah, allow me to share my screen first, please. So yeah, once again, we are going to study together as it is tasked to me to share with you and hopefully be learning again over and over along with you. So yeah, we have in the previous section we had been talking about the central figures and their history and the indemnity conditions that we had been trying to establish foundation of faith and substance for the restoration of human history which has failed in the Garden of Eden. So, however, this time we will studying together about oh wait a minute, sorry. The periods of providential history and the determination of their lengths. So, in section 1, we will be learning together about the parallel providential periods. So, yeah, examining the course of human history, we often find cases where the various circumstances of period in history are repeated in a similar form during a later age, albeit with differences in scope and degree. When a period of history repeats the events of the previous period, the two periods are called parallel providential periods. The principal cause behind these parallels lies in God's providence of restoration through indemnity. So alam naman natin na actually in the previous sections, chapter, we knew very well what was the cause. I mean, why it has to be repeated and why it has to be restored again. So actually, some historians actually are impressed with this kind of phenomena that has occurred, and they point out that history progresses in a spiral movement, as you can see, yet they do not understand the underlying cause. So, however, tayo, naintindihan natin yan, we knew why. Di ba alam natin kung bakit nangyayari ang isang, why it has to be repeated itself. And just to make us have a little glimpse, alam natin na in the history of Adam to Noah to Abraham, um, there are always certain periods that has to be involved, and there are really great lessons that we have to learn from. So ito, of course we will be discussing further later, but in reflection to that, we have to, in through this, I hope that together we can always be reminded of the great urgency of this moment that we are here, living in the time of the second advent, and discern what is the very necessary things that we need to do for this period not to be prolonged any further. Yan yun yung ano natin. So, this time we will be talking about how then parallel providential periods come about. So, parallel periods occur because of repeated dispensations to restore the foundation of the Messiah. We know very well that supposedly the Messiah could have come during in Adam's family. However, we also knew that Abel and Cain was not able to lay the foundation of substance. So that's the reason why it has to be prolonged, and God has to find some more central figures who could realize and establish the foundation for the Messiah. And then, accordingly, the factors which determine the formation of parallel providential periods are first, um, the three conditions necessary for the foundation of faith, which includes which of course the central figure, the object for the condition, and the numerical period of indemnity. We know very well, brothers and sisters, that God has really predestined absolutely the eventful um, realization of His will, right? So it is therefore when the central figure whom God has chosen in that particular period fails to fulfill his responsibility, God will choose another person to carry on the failed mission, I should say, failed mission, and finally will open up another historical period in the providence to restore through indemnity the foundation for the Messiah. 'Di ba? So since this new period restores through indemnity the previous period, a central, um, of course, with similar events will be repeated. So this is how to come to be how the history come to be parallel to one another. So that is the very reason, no? So nagsagulan ako. So, alam naman natin na the very reason why the provisional periods will have to come about is because for us to lay the foundation for the Messiah. So, there are two reasons, no? Ang una, yun nga, yung central, uh, it is very necessary for the foundation of faith to be realized in the particular numeral period of indemnity. Yeah, ayan yung tatlong requirements, including that of the object. And then the second reason is the indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature, which is uh, the foundation of substance, which is very necessary. Kaya yun din yung nawala in the time of Adam, if we may recall it, of which Noah later on then tried to restore, no? So, sana, yeah, and of which after Noah na prolong pa kay Abraham. So, we will study further that the parallel providential periods recur because of the repeated dispensation to restore the foundation for the Messiah. Ay, is that it? So accordingly, the factors which determine the formation of parallel providential periods are one, the three conditions necessary. Oh, sorry, wala, balik-balik man ko, sorry. Now we are going to talk about, sorry kayo ha. Now we are going to talk about the number of generations or years in the periods of the age of the providence to lay the foundation for restoration. So, alam naman natin, we knew very well that when Adam and Eve failed in the Garden of Eden, um, um, Adam and Eve come into the middle position, right? So, right there, supposedly God must come, or the Messiah must come. However, God cannot deal with Adam immediately. Therefore, God has to divide him into, has to give him two sons, right? And then that was the first work of restoration ni Heavenly Parents in human history. So here, we will be studying why the providence of restoration is prolonged. So according to the principle of predestination, since God absolutely predestines His will, He surely will realize it one day. However, whether God's will is fulfilled through any particular individual is conditional upon the fulfillment of his portion of responsibility. And which is in addition to God's portion of responsibility. So sorry ha na baka naka-create ako ng confusion a little bit. So dito kung titingnan natin, we have learned in the previous chapters and previous sections na God's will, since we know God is absolute, his will also is absolute, right? However, the realization of his will is becomes conditional due to the fulfillment of man's portion of responsibility. Although his will is absolutely is absolutely predestined to be realized, but because God wants human being to become his co-creator, di ba? Remember natin. And inherit his creative nature, he bestowed upon human beings portion of responsibility. So, yung realization ng will niya talaga naging conditional na. Ang predestination of the realization of its will naging conditional because of this human portion of responsibility. So, dapat ito yung ating matandaan natin lagi. Especially when we reflect it on our daily life of faith na we have learned because we know the principle na God's ideal of creation is absolutely be realized one day, no matter whether we will like it or not. Mangyayari at mangyayari talaga yon. However, it is, we are very much required to participate in the realization of its realization. Kasi doon lang ma-fully realize yung will ni Heavenly Parents. Hindi ko pala, sorry, hindi ko pala explain. Okay. Hindi ko pala. Okay, thank you, sorry po. Ayan. So, yeah, okay. So, accordingly, when the will is not fulfilled because the responsible person fails, God will choose another person in a different era to take his place. God will continue his work until its complete fulfillment, prolonging the providence in the process. So, ito yung rason, no, na dahil nga, halimbawa na lang, katulad nung nangyari kay Adam, hindi kaagad-agad si God maka-work through them because naging nasa middle position nga sila. That's why he has to give them two sons through Abel and Cain. And supposedly at the time, it is Cain and Abel that is going to restore the foundation of faith and substance for the Messiah to come. However, alam din natin na it did not happen. Di po ba? So, that's the reason why the fulfillment of God's will is then prolonged. So here, we have to know more that we have to understand that according to the principle of creation, God is a being of number three. So all things created in His likeness manifest themselves through the three-stage process with respect to their mode of existence, movement, and growth. So dito, alam naman natin na all created beings talaga nag-reflect sa or nag-represent sa dual characteristics ni God at sa being niya. However, we also have learned that God is a being of number three, di po ba? So, lahat din ng mga created beings niya has manifested likeness. Kahit nasa existence, kahit sa growth at saka movement, mayroon tayong makikita na ganitong pattern of 3. So therefore, whenever the providence of restoration is prolonged, it may extend to as many as 3 stages also. So, kaya nga, kung titingnan natin, when we study in the previous sections, chapter, I mean, nakikita din natin yung, ang, paano ba natin na maintindihan? Yung example when Adam's family through Cain and Abel failed to make the substantial offering in the dispensation was repeated in the families of Noah also. So nakita niyo yun, yung failure ni Adam at saka ni, alam naman natin na um, although Abel was able to manifest a faithful and loyal heart to God, however, hindi nila na-establish ang foundation of substance. So, in the time of Noah also, yung foundation of faith do na-establish ni Noah through making the ark, no? Making the ark. And then, in 120 years on top of the mountain. However, yung foundation of faith, substance na gagawin na ng through Ham at sa mga anak ni Noah, um, um, na kung saan nag-fail din, kailangan sana nilang ma-establish. And I think I remember that very clearly that we have studied that one, kung anong dapat maging attitude sana ng mga central persons at that time. However, hindi nangyari, no? And then it was prolonged to Abraham's family. So, since God is a God of being of number 3, dapat nating intindihin na after, if the providence of restoration has prolonged in the third time, hindi na pwedeng maprolong pa ito uli. So, it cannot be extended to another. Instead, it has to be realized within that third attempt and the realization of restoration, no? So, ang prolongation ng restoration, it cannot be extended beyond number 3 on the third attempt. Yun yung gusto nating iparating dito. So, yeah. We have to learn about the vertical indemnity conditions, horizontal restoration through indemnity na dapat magawa ng mga central figures. So, ito, because alam naman, bago pa tayo pala, alam natin na when God has chosen Noah in the stead of, after Abel was being killed by Cain, and then when Noah also, actually God has chosen has chosen Noah 10 generations after the family of Seth, which represents Abel, during in the family of Adam. And then it has, kung tingnan natin, it has occurred after 160 years or 1,600 years muna ang lumipas bago na-chose ni God si Noah. And then, after Noah's family failed, after Ham and Seth, Shem and Ham was not able to lay the foundation of substance by feeling guilt of being ashamed to their father's nakedness, and thus that forfeits Noah's inheritance, supposedly of being one with the heart of his father, the one who has laid the foundation of faith. So, na-forfeit na naman ang providence ni God to restore at to lay the foundation for the Messiah. And then, kung tingnan natin, it took God 10 generations, and then it took him 400 years to find Abraham. Para for the third time ma-prolong ay ma-carry on ang providence of restoration. So, in the time of Abraham, we knew that in some way Abraham also failed. Kasi alam natin na when a particular central figure has to to lay the foundation of faith and substance to restore the to carry out the providence of restoration. Alam natin na yung indemnity condition na ginawa nung unang central figure, madoble yon, 'di ba? So madudoble yon. So ganun din ang nangyari. And then however in the in the case of Abraham, which is the third person, the central figure na chose ni God to carry out um, His will to be realized, or the providence of restoration to be realized, nagkamali din siya eh. Pero, binigyan, dahil hindi na pwedeng i-extend ni God to another person, He cannot choose another person para mag-replace kay Abraham. So, that providence of restoration should be realized within Abraham's family. So, here, we have to know that the central figure responsible for the providence of restoration must fulfill in a short time all the indemnity conditions which his predecessors, the ABC, tried to fulfill. So, kaya nga nakita natin dito na in the previous chapter na why is it that Abraham has to offer the three kinds of symbolic offering in one altar? Yun, yung kailangan niyang i-realize yun in one sitting, in a certain period of time, na para nga ma-establish niya yung foundation of faith. Ngunit, kahit binigyan ni God si Abraham ng chance na ma-indemnify pa niya uli, or ma-realize yung will niya, ma-carry out yung providence of restoration in his family, nakita din natin kung paano kumbaga ginage ni God, measure ni God yung loyalty at saka faithfulness ni Abraham by having asked him to offer his only begotten son. At saka doon in Isaac na-realize din yung foundation of substance na gawa ni Jacob and Esau. Di po ba? So, yun yung ganito mag-work si God. He cannot allow things to happen beyond on the third attempt. However, kung titingnan natin, may pagkapare-pareho yung ginawa nila, at saka may pattern yung mga nangyayari, at saka mga events, at saka mga indemnity conditions that they have to do as a central figure. So here we have to understand that the conditions which accumulate in the providence of the providential history are called vertical indemnity conditions. The conditions, the task of the central figure to fulfill all these conditions in a short time is called horizontal restoration through indemnity. So lahat ng katulad ng ginawa ni Abraham. Lahat ng conditions niya horizontal restoration through indemnity. Sorry. Ay din yun, parang na-accumulate din yun through the different central figures na sinundan niya. So in this sense, we can understand that each central figure, the A, B, and C, in the providence of restoration stands not only for himself as an individual, but represents all the forefathers, prophets, and sages who had the same mission in the past. He bears within him the fruits of the labors of his in history. So, kung titingnan natin, brothers and sisters, itong pinag-aaralan natin ngayon is has a similarity on our present situation na tayo also is also placed in that particular position. Hindi naman kasing significant nung katulad ng ginawa ng ating true parents, no, or ni Abraham at saka ng mga previous central figures. But one thing that I think we should learn from here is that na alam naman natin na ang realization ng restoration of the providence of restoration at saka realization sa will ni God, hindi lang pwedeng gawin ni God himself or the central figure itself. But rather it has to be done all together with all the participating people. That includes us and the people. Kasi at this present moment, mag-una-una na ako, at this present moment, malaki na yung kailangan nating gawin na hindi lang kaya ng isang central figure lang. Kasi we are now talking about restoration, di ba, on the worldwide or the national level, or on the worldwide, in the cosmic level pa nga. So, itong pinag-aralan natin na ito is only based on a smaller scale na magiging pattern magiging pattern ng lahat ng life of faith ng mga tao na of course ng mga tao kasi tayo yung lineage, result tayo nung mga unang mga kaapu-apuhan na tayo ni Adam at ni Eve, hindi tayo exempted na hindi tayo pwedeng mag-participate. Therefore, we should have to learn from this story here or from the slides and the the presentation na tayo din ay nandoon din sa parehong sitwasyon wherein our portion of responsibility is greatly required. Na hindi lang dahil ang the Messiah already had fulfilled all the indemnity conditions, okay na. Actually, dito, we all are ought to contribute in the realization of the providence of restoration. So, maaring hindi man tayo yung pinakang main person o central figure, however, tayo ay kasali doon sa mag-establish ng horizontal restoration through indemnity. Kaya, yung tayo, when we know that the principle, when we know the truth, we have to reflect more what are these things that we have to realize. Kaya marami tayong mga kailangang maintindihan at gawin pa together. So, now we have to understand the vertical indemnity conditions. For example, in Abraham's family, in Abraham's time, Abraham had to restore horizontally through indemnity all the vertical indemnity conditions which Adam's family and Noah's family before him had tried to fulfill. In offering the three conditions, at one time, on the same altar, Abraham was to restore horizontally through indemnity the vertical indemnity conditions accumulated during the three dispensations of the prolonged providence. So the three offerings represented all the conditions which Adam and Noah could not fulfill, as well as those which Abraham had to fulfill as the new central figure. So, yeah, yun din yung dapat natin, katulad nung shortcut na tayo ha. Katulad ng nangyari ni True Father, why he has to go through a lot of indemnity conditions, both internal, foundation of faith and substance. Bakit? Dahil lahat ng failures ng mga nakaraang central figures, na-accumulate yun. Patong-patong na yun lahat. Even those at the time, True Father is actually a little bit of advantage over the others. Maybe because just like, parang si Abraham in a position si Father na nakalay na ng foundation of faith si Noah. Although maglay pa rin siya ng foundation of faith, pero hindi na kasing haba nung gagawin nung ginawa ni Abraham. Yung parang ganon. So, tayo din, parang tayo din yung nasa, kung sa life of faith natin, tayo din ay naroon sa posisyon katulad ni Abraham na after our true parents had laid all the victorious foundation, tayo din ay nandoon din, kailangan ding magkaroon ng sarili nating kanya-kanyang conditions of have to lay all the foundation of faith and substance in contribution to the victorious foundation of our true parents. For this providence of restoration to be fully realized, of which at the present time we call it the establishment of the holy community, diba? So yun yung dapat nating tandaan talaga, na hindi lang tong pag-aaral natin ito is just to listen and to know about what happened in the past, but really we have to reflect it on our present position now. So now we're going to study about the horizontal restoration through indemnity carried out vertically. So since the work of restoration in Abraham's family was the third attempt in the providence to restore the family foundation for the Messiah, The principle required that this family accomplish God's will without fail. So, alam natin na uh, in the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob fulfilled the necessary indemnity conditions while regarding ay una naman ito. Actually, balik na tayo. During the time when Abraham to establish that foundation, which is prolonged to to Jacob and Jacob, Isaac and Jacob. What's this? They also have to fulfill the necessary indemnity conditions uh, regarding these three individuals, Adam, Noah, and Adam and Noah, with respect to God's will, di ba? So since sila yung third attempt ng si Abraham is on the third attempt, therefore, despite this vertical prolongation through this three generation of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, ang victory ni Jacob and Isaac become also Abraham's own victory. So, yun yung family foundation for the Messiah na establish. So, pero alam natin na, ano din, na-delay pa rin. Hindi outright na nagawa o nangyari o na-realize. Pero sa ni Abraham mismo. However, it is within the family of Abraham. So, actually, may mga reflection ako, pero hindi ko na lang may reflection ako dito, pero hindi ko i-share siguro sa inyo. I hope you can have the same realization later. So, hence, when Abraham failed in his symbolic offering, he completed it vertically through the generations of Isaac and Jacob. So, yun katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, yung victory ni Jacob at saka ni Isaac, nagiging victory din ni Abraham. So, itong restoration of na nagawa ng ng anak at saka ng apo ni Abraham, Bisaya na tuloy. Ito yung when Jacob, especially when he was able to make Esau go into voluntary surrender, even pave the way to how to bring Satan to submit to God, no, through his victory. Ito yung kind of restoration, horizontal restoration through indemnity na carry out in Abraham's family. So, kahit na naprolong pa ng kaunti yung providence to lay the foundation to receive the Messiah, pero nagawa pa rin nila it within the family. So, God's will on the time after the victory of Isaac and Jacob can already come. Pero alam naman natin na the foundation of the Messiah, although the foundation of the Messiah was established, it was also already only in the family level. So, titingnan natin, pag-aralan natin ngayon na ang numerical indemnity periods for restoring the foundation of faith. So, a central figure has to fulfill one or more numerical indemnity periods in order to restore the foundation of faith. So, the first human ancestors were to lay the foundation of faith based on the significant numbers including 12, 4, 21, and 40, which represent the numerical growing period. When they then accomplished the purpose of creation, they would have become the perfect embodiments of quality of these numbers. So, alam natin na kung balikan natin, bago na pili ni God ang mga bawat central figure, may mga particular numbers, period, how this it? It requires particular number of generation, meron ding number of years na, significant number of years na bago nakita ni God ang central figure that has to fulfill the foundation of faith and substance for the foundation of the Messiah to be realized. Pero another reason for that is, syempre, kailangan din pang mag-establish ng numerical indemnity periods in order to restore the foundation of faith. So, dito, um, we have to know, balikan natin konti, na in the, prior to the fall, lahat ng, si Adam at saka si Eve, which is supposed to be the true parents, supposedly to be the parents, hindi automatic na magiging true parents. They have to go through a particular period of growing, growing period, for them to first establish a foundation of faith, and thus, before they can reach perfection. And then when they reach perfection, that is the time when they can be able to inherit um, God's heart, God's will, and God's intelligence or know-how, or yeah, knowledge. Yun. However, alam natin din na prior to them reaching that perfection, kasi 'di ba tatlo yung three blessings na binigay ni God. So, but prior to realizing the three great blessings, of course, they have to go to that numerical growing period. Pero during the numerical growing period, kailangan nilang lay ang foundation of faith. Paano? By by obeying the word. No, yung do not eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yun. Pero, in the individual level, tingnan natin in the individual level, Adam and Eve in particular, they should have also established the four position foundation in the individual level, para yung number ma-establish yung perfection of number 12, wherein alam natin na it can only be established kung yung three object purpose, balikan natin yung three object purpose sa four position foundation can assume the subject part being on the subject position. So, kita naman natin yon, yung both the subject and object and the union could assume the subject position. So, even God and even subject, or Adam and Eve, and in the union itself, the perfect individual, or say the perfected individual, can assume the subject position in the four position foundation, meaning naging one na itong apat na from the origin and the division, and then the union itself, or the result of the give and take relationship with the both subject and object partners, can be established, maka-establish ng four positions foundation, and then maging united. They can form a spherical teka lang sandali. I'm sorry. They can then form a spherical movement, no? Kaya, yun yung perfection of number 12. At saka, At saka dapat din in the foundation of faith, marirealize yung number 4, yung perfection ng number 4, it is by establishing the four position foundation. Of course, first in the individual level. And then, alam naman natin na in that numerical period, itong growing process na i-go through ng lahat ng human beings is divided into 3, di po ba? So bawat each year is also divided into say sa formation, meron na siyang formation stage, yung divided din siya into 3. So bawat isa dito is composed of sige na nga. Bawat isa dito has to be perfected. Yeah, has to be perfected. And thus this composed of the realization of number 21, the perfection of number 21, as well as the number 40. So, actually, ang tayo as human beings na ginawa in relation to Adam na lang, pagpalagay na lang natin, no? Balik natin doon. You really have to go through this numerical period of growing period. At walang exempted dito. And then, unfortunately, yun nga, dahil hindi ito na perfect itong number 12, 21, and 40 in the foundation of faith, wala, we have to go through. Imbis na natural lang sana ang pag-fulfill nito, ang pagka-realize nito, if they did not fail, ngayon, it is very difficult na. We have to pay indemnity conditions na. instead of natural foundation of laying a foundation of faith lang sana. Ganon din. However, we also have to understand in the perfected and when this four numbers has to be realized, it will become one with the perfected. We therefore, as human beings, become perfected embodiment of God, and it therefore become the perfect embodiment of the quality numbers of these quality numbers, 12, 4, and 21. So, I hope I had, ano no, sana hindi ako. So, however, sinabi ko na all of these numbers were claimed by Satan. Therefore, the central figures, kaya ang mga central figures in the providential history must fulfill numerical periods of indemnity also to restore these numbers 12, 4, 21, and 40. Kaya yon nakikita natin bakit kailangan na parang manakapattern, kailangan mag-antay tayo ng particular period of time, kailangan mo nang mag-antay ng 10 generations, kailangan mo may mga 400 years na kailangan antayin kasi we have to really lay the and then fulfill the numerical periods of indemnity to restore the numbers that was lost to Satan. So we will talk now about the significance of the numbers 12, 4, 21, and 40 which is lost to Satan. So kanina sinabi natin kaunti na of course in that numerical period of growing, it is divided into three stages: the formation, the growth, and the completion stage. And then dito in the for us to be able to perfect the number 12, sinabi ko na lang kanina kaunti, nabanggit ko na, it has, first, we have to establish the four-position foundation on the individual level. So, no, actually here, no entity can enter or be able to survive without or go to perfection without first forming the four-position foundation. And then each position of this four-position foundation has to pass through the three stages of growing period. Actually, itong formation stage, growth stage, and completion stage. Thus making it a total of number 12. So, four position dito, four position foundation dito, four position foundation dito, that makes it number 12. So, yun yung kaya ito yung sinasabi na perfect embodiment of number 12. And then dito naman sa number 4, Adam and Eve, which is yun yung ideal of creation na Adam and Eve has to pass through these three stages of growing and should enter into the realm of God's direct dominion, which is the perfection of the number 4, which is the what's this? Wait a minute, sorry. Adam and Eve has to go through these three stages of growing, and then by them fulfilling the four position foundation on the individual level, they were to become the perfect embodiment of God. Thus, they will then enter in the fourth stage which is atong fourth stage, yun na yung perfect embodiment of number 4, when human beings or Adam and Eve become the true embodiment of goodness or have inherited the heart of God or become the true representative of God or the substantial representative of God. So ito yung perfection ng number 4 that was lost to Satan. Okay, so also we will talk about the number 21, the perfection or the perfect embodiment of 21. Na when we have understand that all created beings pass through these three stages, right? And these three stages of growing, and has to build the four position foundation and become in each level and become the perfect embodiment of the number 7 in each period. So looking at the three stages of growing period, each stages is a period which fulfills the number dito ito. each stage is fulfilling the number 7. So in total, the entirety of these three stages of 7, embodiment of number 7, is the perfect embodiment of number 21. So here we can say that um, the perfect embodiment on savana of number 21 is then realized. So now, sorry. So now we have to talk about the number 40, or the perfect embodiment of number 40, which was lost to Satan. That the central figures, has to realize, and we even have to do the same. So each of us, all of us, which is even the created beings, has to actually go through the levels of growing period again, no? And then, wala naman kasing exempted doon kahit mga plant, animal, no? Meron silang period of growing also. They also have to go through the same numerical period of growing. And then, each, of course, fulfills its purpose of creation when it becomes one with God. In particular, lalo na ang tao, no? It reaches perfection of, or the realm of direct dominion of God, which contributes to uh, what's this? The Actually in here, the tenth level of the four position foundation, which Adam and Eve should have established. Kasi alam naman natin na ito ay ito ay 9. Pero after this three stages is being accomplished, maabot nila yung 10th level ng ano ba yan? Um, ng four position foundation. Yun. So, okay, so sorry. So, ano ba yan? Wait a minute ha. Here, Adam and Eve should have established that position for which passes through this 10th level um, of the course of maturity, actually. So fulfilling the total numbers of, thus realizing uh, the number 40. Kasi, 'di ba, lalo na si when Adam and Eve has realized the full position foundation and passing through reaching the 10th level of the what's this of the four position foundation, thus realizes the number 40, or perfects the the perfect the number 40, I should say, like that. Ano ba yan, hindi ako marunong magsabi. So here we can therefore say that this foundation should have become, of course, when this four position foundation has been realized by Adam and Eve, and upon reaching the 10th level of the four position foundation, could become the perfect embodiment of this number 40. So ito yung dapat nating i-restore, mga brothers and sisters. I hope you have learned. Actually, I also learned along with you. I know that there could be more realizations or maybe explanations that our elders can have. But honestly, together with you now, I also have some realizations na ito din pala yung dapat nating gawin at this present time. And that includes even the all entity, created entity of this universe which God has created, has to go through. Para actually, itong lahat ng numbers 12, 4, 21, and 40 has to be realized. Therefore, all of us could become a true and perfect embodiment of not just these numbers, but perfect embodiment of God's goodness and true value. Yun. So, I think this ends my wait a minute. This ends my here, actually, yeah. This ends my lecture for tonight. Thank you very much. Ito lang pa. Wala, diba? Nandiyan na po.
Yes, thank you so much po, Ate Sylvia, for that. Yeah, for the lecture for tonight, as we learn about um, about the history, the oral history, that and also the significance, the importance of the significance number of behind all those history. As for now, we are going to have the reflections, or if you have any questions or concern about the topic for tonight, you can also um, drop to our chat box. Then our lecturers can help us and we could learn to each other po. Yes, as for now, we are going to do the reflections. If anyone who wanted to give the reflection first po, you can volunteer yourself. Who has the um, spirit of voluntary. Yeah, meron po ba? Anybody can hear me po ba? Naririnig po ba ako?
Yes po.
Ate,
Okay po, thank you po. And yeah, who want to do it first? Yeah, if wala po din, I think we can do also the fill of names. Okay, we can. I can let us welcome Ate MJ. Ito po ba siya sa Ate? Let us welcome Ate MJ and yeah, we could. Okay lang po ba if your camera is okay po, we can open the camera but so that we could see each other po. Yeah, Ate MJ, are you there? Let us welcome Ate MJ. So yeah, if ko, then let's try to move on po. Kuya Vince. Give a round of applause for Kuya Vince.
Hello po, good evening. Naririnig po ba? Hello po.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay po. So, for today's reflection po for the topic. So, God is the number of three and also ano po, um, um,
Nawala. Nawala si Vince.
Hello po. Oh my gosh.
Okay? Yeah. Naririnig
So,
ka na lang.
okay na po?
Yes?
Okay po, sige. So, reflecting on the topic po, we need to really, um, since the numbers, and we, in the topic po, we have know that the numbers 21, 7, 40 is a providential number po. And also God works with numbers po. Sorry po, putol. Mahina po kasi yung signal dito. Ako.
Continue lang, we can still hear you.
Sige po. So, sana, um, following these numbers po, could really, teka po. Um, follow, could really follow God's will, and also in indemnification po, dun po tayo mag base. Pwede skip na lang po, putol-putol pa talaga. Sorry po.
Sulat mo na lang siguro sa chat,
So,
sir.
yun lang
Ano.
po.
Sulat mo na lang sa chat.
Okay po.
Tapos basahin na lang namin.
Sige po, thank you.
Para malaman.
Sorry po talaga.
Okay. Yung next. Nandiyan na si Miss Juno May. Pero may Wheel of Fortune tayo, di ba? Na-miss ko si Miss Juno May last time. Miss Chinky, yung Wheel of Fortune natin. Yung... Nawala rin si Miss Chinky. Ay, ito na.
Okay, next reflection. Sino yun yung tawag? Let's welcome Christinette.
Good evening po.
Good evening.
Good evening, hello parents. Good evening, true parents. Good evening, lecturer, elders, brothers, and sisters. My reflection for this evening po is actually po I have some if I have been when I in the in the situation that I first received this kind of lecture is I couldn't believe po na ganun po pala yung mga ano, anong steps in being a really matured to attain all those things po. And for me, realization in this um, lecture is yes, because of the failure of all the central figures, the um, the or this um, receiving the Messiah was yeah, prolonged because of failure of all these central figures. And for me po, this time is really different because when I really knows uh, the seminar, or it's really in ano po ah, na hindi po ba putol-putol?
Yes, okay lang.
Okay. And this time po is really different because yes, the we people is the way on how could we receive the Messiah again in his second advent. And for us is parang because of the indemnity po in the of true parents, really the Christianity leads po talaga to really have this absolute faith and absolute obedience in a substance to really receive again the second advent. And this I realized po that the failure of these central figures in the past is one of the um, reason on why heavenly parents cannot receive the happiness that he longing for so long. And this time po is hoping and always praying po that uh, my brothers and sisters in different places will really uh, uh, think and obey. And because of especially those people that know this lecture will be stand on the position of yung position po na dapat being a choosing people on how to lead and receive the Messiah will really stand po. And knowing the yes, the three the providential numbers of in being yeah, the like Ate Sylvia said that it really what do you call this really for me po is really challenging because yes, being especially in yes, perfection of ourselves, it's so hard for us because of our fallen nature in this era. And I hope that even though I have this I can fulfill that three steps in receiving the yes, the in leading uh, that this time po to really receive the second advent and really help every, in this time po in, together with my brothers and sisters. And yun lamang po. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christinet. So yeah, providential numbers. as a lecture, learn from that one. Wanna hear more? Other reflection? Sino pang hindi nakapag-rep?
Si ano, Juname.
Junamay, let's welcome Junamay.
Good evening po, brothers and sisters, elders and lecturers. So, um, for my reflection po, part 2, chapter 3. So, um, according po sa principle, and also we already know in the previous lectures that God's absolutely predestined His will. So, it will surely realize soon. However, God's will is fulfilled through any particular individual, which is it will be fulfilled upon our portion of responsibility and God's portion of responsibility. So, and that we are owed to contribute and give horizontal contribution, which is our lecturer has been said. So, I also learned that um, whenever the providence of restoration is prolonged, it may extend to many stages. So, um, if the central figures also fail in this in his or her mission, all the indemnity condition he or she tried to fulfill are passed down to the next person entrusted with the same responsibility. So, um, parang ang hirap lang po imaginein that um, the efforts and hard works will we will be bear the fruits of their labors and history. So um, about the numerical periods of indemnity, the providential numbers. I learned that a central figure in the providence must fulfill to restore the foundation of faith. So, if ever the first human ancestors have not been fallen for, they can or they have laid the foundation of faith based on the significant numbers, which is I learned that 12, 4, 21, and 40 must be realized. So, when they then accomplish the purpose of the creation, they would have become the perfect embodiments of the quality of these numbers po. So, but due to the fall, all these numbers were claimed by Satan. So therefore, um, we or how can I say this? We the new age or the new era must fulfill the individual conditions, and that um, we must also help to contribute and give horizontal contribution for us to um, achieve the providence of restoration. So, yun lang po. Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Ate Junamay. So,
Si ano, Sir Patrick. May gano'n naman si Sir Patrick. Hindi pa, di ba? Hindi pa siya nagre-reply. Nauna kasi si Sir Vince eh. Sir Patrick.
welcome, Kuya Patrick.
Good evening po, elders, brothers and sisters.
Saka namin.
Uh, for my reflection for this for this meeting that we had is that I had realized na kuan God's the providence of restoration really had a timeline. Then in choosing that timeline, God kanang based it on the numbers that was claimed by Satan when Adam and Eve fall. So we really need to pay indemnity kanang in that kanang within that time scope. Like, if ever we fail, then the providence of restoration will be prolonged. So kanang thinking about God, na, he he constantly kanang invested 100 and taken the 95% portion of responsibility, then only because of us humanity that we fail to fulfill our 5% portion of responsibility, that God kept uh, preparing the world to really be able to accept the Messiah, because as we have seen in the history that kanang even though God had chose uh, kanang excellent or brilliant central figures, but because kanang the central people failed to really unite with them, that's why the providence of restoration was prolonged. So really on our part, uh, we are also kanang we should see ourselves standing in the position both in being a central figure and also the central person, and also what we are in now, as we are in the central in the position of central people, then we should really kanang unite with our central figure, from the bottommost central figure up to the last guy. I realized that we can't really say that kanang we really kanang want to follow our true parents if we cannot follow our center leader. Ano, because I realized that kanang the grace from God is given to our true parents, then from our true parents to the leaders that nearest to them, the regional directors like that, the national leaders, and down to the center leaders. So if we cannot really unite with our center leaders, then we cannot say that we are united in heart with our true parents, our true mother, and our heavenly parents. So that is why it is also a challenge for me, because kanang trying to have this absolute obedience to our central figure is really hard, because it is part of our fallen nature uh, to we have I have this pride like that. So it is still kanang part of my overcoming. So as uh, I stay longer in the movement, I hope soon that I can really uh, be able to have this absolute obedience to our central figures. So that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Patrick.
And now, yung finale natin, si si Miss Josie. Yay!
Good morning, good evening everyone. Good morning, Ma'am Relina, favorite.
Good morning!
Ay, good evening pala, sorry. Ah,
Okay lang para good morning, para ano,
so
Miss
tomorrow na. My reflection po is In order to grow, we need to pass through time, through three stages of growth. Then, fulfill the proposition foundation. This process needs time as natural law, tulad ng pagyabong ng halaman. Thank you. Shortcut. Thank you po.
Thank
Dami
you,
pa
Ate.
nating time.
May mga question
Marami
dito.
ako. Yes. Huwag ka, sir.
How does this number affect your life? How do these numbers affect your life? Kasi we're talking about here numerical numbers, right? Ano ba ang purpose nun? So, sinong gusto sumagot? Even from the those participants who are watching via YouTube. So, pwede kayo sumagot. Just comment in the chat box. Wala si ano, Junal May. How about si Christinet?
Good evening po ulit. For me, yes, the numbers for me is so much uh, at po, ano po uli yung tanong kasi parang ano po ako.
Nasa chat box, sinabi dito, how does this numerical number, numerical na number to how does providential numbers affect your life? Or these numbers affect your life?
Mm, for me po, it affects in me because by yes, in order to really have this perfect stuff po is really we need to follow the steps in the three stages po. It affects me more because for me as an member, I have to uh, really have this connection in my center leaders and hope that these numbers really really affects me because in order for me to really grow po, I have to really understand on these providential numbers uh, and really follow uh, these steps. Uh, Yun naman po.
Thank you very much, Christinet. How about NJ? Wala palang audio si NJ. Right. May tanong dito, this is the lecture, how can we shorten the following periods? Prolongation funds requires
Di ba yung ano, di ba ngayon second 7-year period na and then sa sa after foundation day, di ba? And actually it's a prolongation, di ba? Supposedly after if we did if we did our portion of responsibility, the members of the unification movement, or we as members have done our responsibilities after 2020, diba? 2020, 7 years after 2020 ba, 2019? 2019. See, after 2013 yung foundation day, di ba? And then 7 years, di ba? Yung first 7-year course. Dapat uh, Kingdom of Heaven na tayo, di ba? Tune in group na siya. But then, that's why the second 7-year course is a prolongation. So, do we need to go through do we need to go through, can we shorten it? Parang hanggang second prolongation lang tayo. Kasi, di ba, based on the lecture, yung dispensation is hanggang 3 lang, di ba? So, pwede ba nating based sa lecture, pwede ba natin hanggang second 7-year course lang siya? Hindi na tayo magta-third 7, wala pa ng 7-year, third 7-year course. Pwede ba yon? Kasi we need to be very, as members, we need to, this should be very clear for us kasi may sinusundan tayo, brothers and sisters. May sinusundan tayo na yung nakaraan natin, which is exactly parallel. So, we need to go through the dispensation, or we can make it once lang dapat or twice lang, hindi na tayo magta-third. Yun yung reason kung bakit natin that's the reason why we are studying chapter 3, yung parallels of providential history, is that the reason why we are studying this is that for us to truly understand si God, si God, willing siya na maghintay and guide us depende dun sa responsibility natin, and God will act according to our portion of responsibility. But God will only allow us to do our responsibility until the third time, or commit mistake, or prolong into doing our responsibilities up to the third time. So, yun. That's the reason why Mother is saying na God cannot wait ah, anymore. Yun yun. Yun yung ganun ka, ganun ka critical yung time na natin. Especially, di ba, true father is the third Adam. So, third dispensation na siya. So, we need to truly do our responsibilities this time. And critical na rin siya na nasa second 7-year course na tayo. So, yun yung inaaral natin. Bakit natin inaaral to? Nang sa ganon, pwede nating if we do our responsibilities, yung katulad din sinasabi ni mother na please magtiwala tayo kay mother, sumunod tayo kay mother, parang ganun. And then and and that would be the miracle yun yung magkakaroon ng magpo-create ng miracle because of our obedience and faith to our true parents. So, yun yung critical time na although on our part kasi nga mahirap sa atin, pero we need to truly understand how critical our time yung time natin. We are fortunate that we are living together with our true parents. We are breathing the same air with the true parents. But then, it also, it is also, tawag dito, parang it's also a chastisement. Kasi tayo yung nakakilala sa true parents and we should be doing our portion of responsibility during this time. So, yun yung reason kung bakit natin inaalam tong parallel na to para hindi na natin ulitin yung mga mistakes in the of the central figures of central people and chosen people. So, yun. Nasa chapter 3 natin na tayo, 4, 5, 6. Ano pa tayong, 4, 5, 6 na, ng last part ng divine principle. So, yun. Nasaan na si...
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir. Welcome po.
Yes, welcome, sir.
Okay, so
Marami pang...
the topic that we're discussing is about the numbers, right? And how important knowing these numbers are. Parang how important knowing your age. Is it important to know your age, or is it important to know the history behind your age and at the same time knowing your age? What do you think? Anybody? Hello?
Is it important to know your age?
Let's hear from the participants. Anyone?
Nakangiti si Sir Beans. Nakangiti si Sir Beans. Biglang ganun eh. Natutuwa ako pag gumingiti si Sir Beans eh. Siyempre, pag nakangiti ka, Sir Beans, meron kang na-perceive. So, maybe we would like to hear it, we would like to hear yung na-perceive mo na answer. Dun sa question ni Sir Randy.
Ako po, babawin lang po ako. Mukhang malakas na po talaga yung signal. Dito lang po ako babawi.
Sige,
Ano nga po ulit yung yung question? Ako na lang po mag-volunteer. Mukhang wala po kasing magtaan.
How important knowing these numbers na present ni Ate Sylvia? How important knowing this into your life? Or how does it affect your life?
Ano po? Knowing these numbers, I
12, 21, 44.
malalaman po talaga natin kung anong ginawa ni God sa mga numbers na yun. Like for example, in day 40, sa 40 is number 40 is used to for like in Moses time and Moses he number 40 is used to fasting po, and also for in Jesus time po 40 is also used for fasting. So and also 7 is the number for the days that God created the world po. So knowing these numbers po, we could really use it in our like today po, we could use it to really, like if we want to ano po, like for example kay Moises, if we want to fasting, we could use number 40 for example to really to do fasting. So yun lang po siguro yung answer. Dre. Yun lang po, thank you.
Mhm. Any additional? Ano naman ngayon kung malaman mo yung 40 days, 120 days, 210, may meron bang mai-ano sa life mo? How does it affect your life knowing all of these things? How about you na May?
Hi, good evening po.
Hello.
About the anong question natin? the numbers, kung ano po siyang significance towards me. So, um, in my own opinion po, the numbers represent the history itself. Kasi po, this number represents the numerical growing period. So, knowing this providential numbers let me um, realize or look onto the past na, oh, I must do this, I must lay this foundation, I must realize these numbers which I can be embody. I mean, I can be the perfect embodiment of these um, numbers po. So I can also um, accomplish, which is the purpose of creation through these numbers. Uh, yun po yung para sa akin, these numbers represent the history, and then parang ano po siya, paano ko ba sabihin? Parang nasa list ko na po siya, which is, oh, ay, dapat gawin ko to. So, ganun po.
Mhm. Si Christinette.
Yes po, good evening ulit. Good evening, Sir Randy. For me po, uh, knowing these significant numbers, it is very important for us to, because po, it is um, one of the, or it represent po to really know what, ano po yung mga, ano na, nag-grow po tayo, and especially to our ancestors po, that they are uh, follow, or they lay the foundation of faith by following the providential numbers po, and it is yes, to really accomplish the like Ate Juna said, that really accomplish the um purpose of creation, and yes, to embodied of what the quality of these numbers. For me po, yes, it is so much really giving me this one po na really the numerical numbers po that have the significant numbers po for me is really important for for me to really know if I am going in these days, or my efforts and dedication is less than the things that uh, yung pwede ko pa pong gawin, ganun po, that like in the yes, no, yeah, really this numerical these significant numbers po is one of my uh steps for me to really knowing my yes, my condition of faith towards heavenly parents, and I attaining this uh fulfilling po the great blessings that one of the steps is to um really know these providential numbers po. Yun naman po.
Mhm. Anybody else? How about si Ate Sylvia? As the one
Good
who
evening
give
po,
lecture.
Kuya. Good evening po. Yeah, it is very important, and everyone, good evening. It is very important to know these significant numbers because this is the true embodiment of God's goodness to me. Una, because yung number 12, yun sa sinabi ko na po, um, and in the individual level, di ba, si God as the origin, um, inire-reflect niyo yung kanyang dual characteristics through the subject and object partner, of which this subject and object partner has to have a has to realize a perfect harmonious give and take relationship, thus making producing a union of it that would realize the four position foundation. And then yung ganun, yung four position foundation na established, 'di ba? Yun yung ano we become, and then when this four position foundation is established, and then it could really become form it could when it can form a spherical motion, of which um, all subject object uh, and the union can assume on a subjective position. Yun yung realization ng number 12 o perfection of the number 12, of which ito po yung realization ng three great blessing na binigay ni Heavenly Parents sa nag-i-endow niya sa tao. So, it is very important to know this, because without us understanding this one, we will not be able to realize the purpose of creation, our purpose. We cannot even understand our value. Therefore, we have to realize these numbers. And then, bakit kailangan, how is it related? Bakit significant ito? Dahil alam naman natin na it was lost to Satan. Therefore, we have to return it back to God. So, paano ba natin gagawin? That's why we have to learn all these things. At binigyan tayo ng formula ni True Parents for us to be able to participate in the realization of on the perfection of His ideal of creation. Yan yun. Kaya, kailangan nating malaman itong mga numbers na ito. Of which, sabi na natin, na-mention na natin na itong 12, 4, 21, at saka 40, its perfect quality, or of these numbers is the perfection of God's purpose of creation talaga po, in which God can really become happy with our participation po. Yun po. Thank you po.
Mhm. Thank you very much. Mm, hindi ko naman sabi na hindi tama yung mga sinabi. Opo. Pero ano bang kulang doon?
Can I try it, sir?
Ano bang kulang doon? We have to understand that the reason why we study second part of the divine principle is for what? Bakit pag-aralan natin? 'Di ba? Kumbaga isa lang naman yung pinaka main purpose, right? Tama ba? Isa lang, right? It is to lay the foundation for the Messiah. And in order for us to lay the foundation for the Messiah, we needed to lay the foundation of faith and foundation of substance. Tama ba?
Opo.
And what are these numbers for? Diba? Whether we like it or not, in short, knowing these numbers will allow us to restore back to our original position. Laying the foundation of faith, foundation of substance, so that we can lay the foundation for the Messiah. And we can be connected to the Messiah. Does it make sense?
Thank you po.
Kasi we have to go back to the main purpose why we are studying this. And ano ba yung pinaka main point natin sa second part ng divine principle? Diba, it is to lay the foundation for us to be connected to the Messiah. Okay. And once we are now connected to the Messiah, automatically we will be disconnected from Satan. So kahit hindi mo nasabihin yun, you will still be going towards your own individual restoration. So we can therefore say that knowing these numbers, understanding these numbers, will allow us to understand how we can restore ourselves back to the original position where we should be. And we can be connected to the person that will give us the right path in order for us to really practice God's God's lifestyle, and we can act in accordance to God's purpose and in accordance to God's will. Tama ba? Kaya nga, kung titignan natin, knowing these numbers, this should give us a clear understanding na ito pala yung number na dapat kong i-follow in order for me to start a new beginning. Kaya nga, 400, ano ba yung 40? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng 40? Diba? Or sabihin natin 4. Ano ibig sabihin ng 4? That is the 4 position foundation, right? And what is the 4 position foundation means? It is inheriting God's characteristics. And if we will do it 10 times, i-practice mo yun 10 times, ano mangyari? Diba? We can perfect. Tama ba? Aju?
Yes.
Ma-remember ko nung ma-remember ko nung college ako. Merong isang psychologist na nagsabi na if you wanted to memorize a word or a sentence, you needed to say it 10 times. If you will say it continuously for 10 times, mariretain yun sa isipan mo. At the same time, hindi lang mariretain sa isipan mo, magkakaroon ng meaning sa'yo. So, kung titignan natin, knowing all of these numbers, how important these numbers are, this is the way of our restoration. Without these numbers, we cannot be restored. Pwede ka bang ma-restore kung hindi ka mag-fulfill ng 4 position foundation, and then you will not climb up towards perfection? Na that's number 10. Now, if you will multiply it with number 4, that's equivalent to 40. And because it was not being fulfilled in the very beginning, okay, nagkaroon ng purification period na up to 400 years. Aju? So, yeah, that's why it's really very important na we have to always connect back to the very purpose why we are studying things. Kasi madali namang sabihin kung ano yung interpretation natin sa based dun sa divine principle. Pero how is it, anong significance nun in laying the foundation in order for us to go back to God? In order for us to start all over again. Okay, so anyway, yeah, the most important thing is knowing these numbers will lead me towards my individual restoration. Kasi ito naman yung kinakailangan natin. Kinakailangan natin ng, kaya nga yung mga conditions natin, di ba, starts with 7, 21, 40, 120, and so on and so forth. And saan naka-base itong mga numbers na to? It is based on these numbers. In order for us to be connected to the Messiah and we can start a new beginning. Aju? Aju po ba?
Aju po.
So, with that, I hope na you have a another way of looking at and understanding these numbers. Na it is just a number na because of the failure of yung mga central figures, but it is also a way for me to be restored back to God. Kaya nga laging sinasabi ni Father, di ba? Na knowing history is understanding what is my position, who am I? Na wala namang ibang dahilan kung bakit tayo nandito is because para nang sa ganun magkaroon ng new beginning and hindi na maulit yung mga nangyari in the past. Kaya kung titignan natin, it is my restoration and also it is the restoration of my lineage going back to the original lineage that is connecting to God. Aju?
Aju.
So, anyway, thank you very much for your for your time today. Medyo mahaba pa, no?
I want to add
Yes.
something. Yeah, it's good evening everybody. So sa YouTube, I've been asking about is it necessary yung number? Necessary ba yung number? Mga significant number before the fall happened? Para for the for us to understand the value of the numbers, we have to understand, is it necessary, are those numbers necessary before the fall? Kasi yun talaga yung original plan ni God before the fall happened. And according sa divine principle, read mo sa diagram. Diba? Kasi nagtanong ako dito sa YouTube, yung numbers, they agree. But when I asked about number 40, they said no. And let's clarify once again for 5 minutes. Let me show you. I'm so sorry, but just for 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. So before the fall happened, yung or winter, dapat stop ko muna. Alam na to ng mga lecturer eh. I have to share this today. Na-explain na rin to ni Ate Sylvia kanina. Let's clarify more. For me, it really affects my spiritual life also in understanding about especially the number 40. Kasi ito yung misunderstood natin. Ang number 40 is always the separation of Satan. Yun ang lagi naintindihan natin. Always separation of Satan. But do we know that before the fall, number 40 is necessary? Kinakailangan siya. Kasi based sa diagram dito, ito, before the fall. Kung next slide natin siya, ito yung after the fall. So ito yung before the fall. Tingin tayo dito. During the numerical growing period, Adam and Eve will have to establish the foundation of faith even before the fall. During the numerical, during the growing period, right? Formation, growth, and completion. Kailangan pa rin ang numbers. Like 12, 4, 21, 40. And in-explain na kanina kung ano yung 40, like every stage, may number 3, 3, 3, then dito 10. 10 times 4 portion foundation, yung sinabi ni Sir Randy kanina, that's number 40. If they reach the perfection level, dun magkaroon ng embodiment, perfect embodiment of numbers. Kasi God is a God of numbers, so we also have to reach those numbers. We have to become a perfect embodiment of those numbers also. So kinakailangan yung 12, 4, 21, and 40 even before the fall. Now, after the fall, kung titingnan mo sa diagram, nag-fall si Adam and Eve. Even below the formation stage. Kung titingnan mo dito, next, foundation of faith, nasa baba na siya. Kasi hindi lang dito naka-align sa formation stage, below the formation stage. So nagiging dito numerical growing period, pagdating dito numerical indemnity. Why indemnity? It is because after the fall, it is the restoration in order for us to go back to God. So after the fall, kinakailangan pa rin ang numbers, especially after the fall, kinakailangan ang numbers in order for us to go back to God. Pero dapat nating intindihin that before the fall, kinakailangan yung mga significant numbers na yun. So ibig sabihin, if we are doing conditions, it is not only indemnity. Of course, it is because it is after the fall, but our thinking is this is our condition towards God, even without indemnity condition, even if it is not about indemnity condition. We have to put this in our heart that these numbers, those conditions na ginagawa natin, kahit indemnity siya, kinakailangan siya even before the fall happen. Ang point ko dito is that our life of faith is not only based on like always indemnity. we also have to do things even before the fall. Like for example, sina Adam and Eve, they have to lay foundation of faith and substance before the fall. It is not indemnity. It is only a condition. But after the fall, it is an indemnity condition. Nasa divine principle yan. And it was already explained last time. I don't know if you still remember. But what time is now? So yun, time is up. So yun, itong before the fall, kinakailangan siya, ang tinatawag niya is numerical growing period, necessary to lay the foundation of faith. Pagdating, after the fall, ang nangyari is naging numerical indemnity period. In order for us to lay the foundation of faith, not only faith, but also substance, to become qualified in order to receive the blessing and to achieve, receive the blessing, receive the Messiah through the blessing and to reach perfection and become the embodiment again, supposed to be, and not again, but for the first time in our life, to become the perfect embodiment of those numbers. So hindi siya kinakailangan after the fall, kinakailangan siya even before the fall. Yan ang itatak sa utak natin. You have to put that in our mind. Ang understood ko kasi kaya, I always like, ang hirap naman, bakit lagi na lang ganito? Hindi ko talaga maintindihan yun. Akala ko lahat ng numbers necessary siya because mag 3 days ka, mag 40 days ka, mag 21 days ka, skip meal, ganito. And I never understood that one. Kailangan pala siya, those numbers kailangan pala even before the fall. So when we do condition, not only because this is para sa restoration of those numbers, but do it before the fall happen. Na ito yung magiging lifestyle ko, even if we reach the kingdom of heaven, it is still necessary. Even if elgok na tayo, it is still necessary. That is because that is part of the growing period. Yun, sana nasagot ko yung yeah. And knowing those numbers, kaya nga napaka-importante talaga. Always, hindi naman sa ang lagi ko kasing question sa sarili ko is nangyari na kasi ang lahat, the fall happened. Ang lagi kong question kasi sa sarili ko, ano yung mga bagay na nangyayari na dapat mangyari before the fall? Yun ang lagi kong iniisip para pag malaman ko yun, eto pala dapat. So dapat eto magiging natural. Those numbers, dapat natural lang sa lifestyle natin. Building our life of faith, dapat natural yun. Hindi lang siya indemnity. Of course, it is part of indemnity kasi after the fall. But put this as our lifestyle. Do condition that is part of your lifestyle in building your faith towards God and true parents. Yan ang na-discover ko sa principle when I studied Universal Principle Training Academy for 1 year. And it's very interesting. I've heard this one. I never heard this one actually. I'm sorry for the lectures that day, but I never heard this one. Maybe diniscuss nila, tulog lang siguro ako. Yan yung problema. Hindi ko na maalala. Diniscuss nila, hindi ko lang maalala siguro. Tulog lang siguro. But ngayon ko lang siya na-discover. So, hindi na ako nahirapang i-fulfill yung mga condition na yun. I do condition because this is supposed to be yung gagawin ko dapat even before the fall happen. So, those numbers really necessary. Kinakailangan para sa life of faith natin. It transform our life of faith. Those stages of transformation. Not only formation but also in the growth until the completion. So yan, I hope it somehow like clarify you, and I hope that it understood and strengthen more your understanding and your faith towards God and true parents, especially your building your life of faith. So that would be all. Thank you very much. Any additional? We have this 5 minutes left. It's already explained by Ate Sylvia But I just want to repeat it and to add more. Yun.
Thank you, Kuya Herwin. Thank you very much, Kuya Herwin.
So, any
We learn from that. Mas maliwanag na ngayon na na hindi tayo na magko-condition tayo, mas madali, mas magaan sa kalooban.
yes,
Mas pala,
exactly te.
mas
Mas
mal-
magana sa kalooban natin, hindi nagkuya. Kasi yun talaga yung dapat gagawin natin before the fall happen. Kasi sabi dito, Adam and Eve, where? Root ang word doon is where. Supposed to be yung where to lay the foundation, to fulfill the, where to lay the foundation of faith based on significant numbers, including 12, 4, 21, and 14. Where to lay. Kapag ganun. But after the fall, ganun. Mas magaan na sa kalooban natin. Hindi na, huwag na kayo mahirapan. Please. It's part of indemnity kasi that's after the fall. But put this in yourself and in our mind and heart. Me, myself also. Buti na lang talaga nalaman ko. Kasi hindi na masakit sa akin mag-condition. Kailangan ko pa talaga yung numbers na to. Masakit talaga dati kasi lagi na lang pinapapulbaw tapos di ko maintindihan kung bakit. Indemnity naman siya pero ano ba sa sa
Parang unfair. Lalo na pagka 120 full bows, parang unfair.
unfair.
Tapos sa harapan pa ng sa publiko pa, parang ganun, parang napaka-unfair. Dahil hindi natin
Actually,
naintindihan.
hindi naman. Pero pag maintindihan natin,
Yeah, it will always be a gratitude. I mean, because you have to get connected. Thank you, Kuya Erwin. To God.
Thank you din, Sir Randy. Actually, I
Thank you
don't
po
know how to
pala,
put
sir.
that in question.
Lalo na ako.
ito yung resulta pag nag-aaral ng DP. So, pwede na kayo mag-enroll guys sa DPTA.
Yeah, lahat ng buhol mag-UPTA na.
Sa mga those who are watching YouTube via YouTube, so please, study ng 1 year ng divide principle. Ganon. Nag-ano na, nag-kampanya na.
Yeah,
Siyempre,
actually, LA already approved na will be starting the third batch by June. And
wow.
we'll be
Wow.
sending, we will be giving the invitation kay Yev para it will be given as a memo from the office of the national lead.
Wow.
So i-prepare mo yun, Herwin. Mag-ano kayo ni Bea sa preparation for June enrollment of the third batch ng UPTA. Formulate yun ni Bea tapos ibigay nyo kay Yev para magawa siya na as a memo from our national leader to. Kasi gusto ni LA na ma-expand na yung foundation ng UPTA, Divine Principle Study.
Congratulations, sir.
Parang ang mangyari nga yata, even mga leaders, they needed to go through this later on pagka. Okay, so
Ang PPM ko na lang sa'yo. PPM na lang ako kay Sir.
Kaya yung mga first batch, mag-prepare na kayo. Kasi you will be training a lot. And yung training ground pa rin ng pagle-lecture is yung 21 days natin. And yun nga,
Tabak pa rin.
we will be opening even day session later on para we will cover both day and night na kasi online naman. Okay? So it's already 10 o'clock, I think. We can now, as andyan ba si Jinky?
Oo. Hindi na siya yata nakapasok, sir.
So we will ano na? We will end this session already, brothers and sisters. So may I request,
Okay,
tingin
let me
ako.
pray.
Okay, sige po. Thank you po.
Please share a prayer. Our most beloved Heavenly Parents, victors or parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. At this time, Father, you have given us opportunity to understand your heart deeply, not just a mere uh, not just mere understanding of a or shallow understanding of your will and your desire, but you have allowed us to dig deeper on how we can really practice the divine principle as our way of life, and how important the divine principle in order for us to really recreate ourselves and to really make ourselves become a new person, and to become a person whom you could really look at as your true sons and daughters. So, Father in heaven, we're so grateful with our true parents who have unlocked all of these things, that after 6,000 years, it's only this time that they uh, that we were able to understand how important our life is, was especially how important all of those number that was lost in the Garden of Eden, in order for us to embody your will and your desire, and going back to your bosom, or to becoming your filial sons and daughters whom you can be proud of. Thank you, Father, for this moment. And as we continue to study the divine principle, I pray, Father, that we could not only study it and learn it uh, a based on how we we look at the divine principle, but most especially we will understand it based on your perspective, and most especially based on how much true parents embody and to make his life becoming a model in order for us to really be called as your true sons and daughters. Thank you, Father, for these participants that you have given them such a chance to understand deeply and to have a higher understanding of the divine principle and the principle of our life, so that we could really inherit everything that is being set by true parents and make ourselves really become the victors and the fruit of the history of transformation. Thank you, Father. May you please accept all of these things. We offer and report this in our name. Randy and Ria, may bless our family. Jude.
Ju. So
You.
thank you so much, Sir Randy, for that very um, nice prayer po. And before we separate, say goodbye to everybody, I would like to remind all of us, brothers and sisters, to kindly send your reflections to the group chat, which Ate Monina is providing for all of us, because our leaders will be reading it. And yeah, I hope we can really have a greater chance to embody this, and to perfect these numbers in our lives. So I think that ends our night for the night, for this session. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good rest and keep safe.
Good night.
Good night po lahat.
Night, Ma'am Relina.
Good
Goodbye,
night
Principal Sandwich.
all. Good night, everyone. Ay, parang
Good night
kamukha.
Night.
po.
Good night, Kuya. Salamat po, Kuya Herwin, Kuya Randy, Ate Relina, Christinette, Patrick, Kuya Julius, andyan ka pala.
Night po. Thank you so
Ate
much.
Jenky, yeah.
Good night po.
Vince, MJ. Magupta na, mga bagets. I hope you can really think
Nandyan ba
about
si
it.
Miss Irene tomorrow, Sir Randy?
Sabi po niya, te,
Kasi
magkita-kita tayo kina Kuya Julius sa
hindi ko pa siya
sa
nakita.
Metro Point.
So, kaya sabi ko kay Sir Herwin, nasaglit ako pero alis din ako dapat na alauna. Magmamadali ako. Gusto ko lang mamit si Miss Irene.
Kasi dalhin din namin yung certificate ninyo, te. Yung ay, Erwin, i-remind mo pala si Bell yung certificate para may prepare bukas. Pati yung jacket ni Irene.
May sasabihin ko? Okay na si Sir Ray. Sabi niya gano'n. Na-try daw niya. Kasi palagi naman daw siyang kasama.
Wow! Breakthrough.
Talaga. Ate Sylvia.
Kuya!
Nagre-request ang South Cotabato ng baka second week ng May.
Po.
Second week ng May sa South Cotabato.
Nag-request sa'yo?
Oo. Si
Wow.
Ate Emily
Si
Magsi.
Ate Emily.
Kasi Emily and Pino.
So, I'm thinking na during that time, sagad ko yung yung
You will
video.
be... Okay.
Will
Second week
be
ng week.
siguro from Jensan to Davao. Tapos Davao to CDO.
Okay po.
Wow!
Wow. Ilang araw ka kaya sa amin, sir? Kuya. Ng araw kagad, ano ba yan? Ilang araw po ba ang request ni Kuya, ni Ate Emily sa'yo?
Actually, 2 days yung niya. Saturday, Sunday.
Tapos, ang Davao, may request din ba sila?
Sa Carmen kasi